Or do we want to say, look, legally, everybody's going to be treated as equal? Philosophically, it's up to y'all to dog it out peacefully. I think the latter is absolutely the best route to go. So, this is true whether you're talking about race, sexual orientation, or industry, even if it's a public sector group. For example, people in public education, they want more money. The Democrats brag about proposing more expenditures on public education, from kindergarten, back from preschool, to college. And the irony is, ladies and gentlemen, that despite this talk calling for more spending on public education, there's no talk about the actual quality of the education and the curriculums that New Jersey's public education is subjected to. And I've talked about this before, I'm not going to go on too long about it, but what have we said about public education in the state of New Jersey? By the way, it's the same standards that 45 of the 50 states in the United States are held to. They're called the Common Core State Standards. I told you that the problem with Common Core is that it takes say away from parents, it takes say away from teachers, it takes say away from school administrators, it takes say away from school boards, and it puts all the say into the ladies and gentlemen behind Common Core Inc., an organization that believes a one-size-fits-all education program is the way to go, which I profoundly disagree with. But if we're talking about how to improve education, before we talk about how much money we should be spending on it, shouldn't we first be talking about the standards? And yet, recently in the news, all the Democrats, specifically the Democratic candidate for governor, has to say is we got to throw more money at public education. But not a word, at least in this article, was mentioned about the standards and how to improve the standards. What sense does it make to throw money into something if the actual system itself is no good? It would in fact be a disaster. I want to make that point. And this returns us again to the issue of special interest groups. Because the only people who are going to benefit from throwing more money at our public education system without talking about the actual standards and curriculum, the only people who are going to benefit are certain people, workers within that system, who are going to get more money. So you're throwing people more money, but you're not improving the education for our children, and that's what needs to be talked about. That's the problem with special interest groups. Groups of people within particular industries or so-called racial groups or gender groups or sexual orientation groups or what have you, saying, give me extra money and we'll make sure we get you elected. I will have none of that, and neither will my running mate, Don DeZarn. So ladies and gentlemen, please hear me when I say that. We are opposed to it, and we are only two representatives, but if you get two representatives like us into the legislature, I can guarantee you that we will fight that, and we will hold to our principles. So that your children could have better education, so that we could have better health care, we could have better tax policies. Now briefly, I want to say some more comments about Obamacare. Obviously, any issue presented in my platform is something that I'm constantly going to have more to say about, because I want these policies to be passed. I want Obamacare to be nullified. But let's talk about the issue of Obamacare and what it tells us. What does Obamacare, the existence of Obamacare, tell us? Because Obamacare was passed with the notion, the objective of making sure that everybody had health care. As romantic as that sounds, let's look at it just a little bit more closely. There is a major difference between ensuring that needy people, folks who are poor or severely disabled, or who have medical bills that are so astronomical that their income cannot possibly pay for what they have to have for the treatments that they need. And these are people who are responsible. That's not what Obamacare is talking about, however. Obamacare just says, we've got an idea. We've got a legal theory about how we can get a large number of Americans to have some form of medical insurance. Again, I point out that that way of thinking doesn't address the problem of those who need but absolutely cannot acquire necessary health insurance, and those who could but are irresponsible and therefore are in a situation where, because of their absolute irresponsibility, don't have health insurance. So my belief is that if we nullify Obamacare, we have to make sure that Medicaid, I believe Medicaid and Medicare should be combined, and we should just have emergency medical care for anybody who needs medical care, who can afford it, and has demonstrated that their inability to not afford it was not because they were financially irresponsible, because they just flat out couldn't afford it. That, to me, is the ultimate goal, but that's not what Obamacare talks about. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of the day, when we talk about Obamacare, what's the real issue? The real issue is making enough money to be able to take care of ourselves. That's the issue. Whether it's so that you can afford your own health care, whether it's so that you can ensure that your children are well educated, whether you're talking about having a job and paying your basic bills, having a roof under your head, being able to feed yourself. That's what it comes down to. And over the last century and a half, I think that's been one of probably the top debate, other than civil rights. I have some personal thoughts on this issue because technically I am poor. Technically I'm in the lower class. Technically I make less than $15,000. So here's what I've got to say about it. Look, I work at a grocery store. Personally, I don't enjoy my job. My managers, they know I don't enjoy my job. They know I'm an aspiring politician and that I'm just doing what I've got to do to make ends meet. I don't like the fact that I make only $9.15 an hour. I hate it. I hate the fact that because of Obamacare, I can only get 29 hours a week, and when I've only got 29 hours a week and I'm also trying to run a political campaign, that's kind of difficult. In fact, to keep this campaign running and to have a political campaign bank account, I've had to take $100 from my personal bank account and put it in there, and the way the bank's policy is, I've got to always have $100 in my campaign account. So I lost $100 running for assembly this year at this time. It's $100 that I can't spend on food. That's $100 I can't spend on anything else, healthcare, what have you. Thank God I don't need healthcare at this time. Look, I hate not having more money. I'd love to be a rich man, but I'm not. But I'll tell you something else. I don't resent rich people, and I never will. Like I said, I aspire to be as wealthy as I can be, and I hope everybody will be as wealthy as they can be. And I know that sounds idealistic, but I mean it. I truly wish there was a way that everybody could not only make ends meet, but I wish at the end of the day everybody could be successful. And I do not believe that attacking those who are more successful than me is going to make me more successful. I do not believe that by taxing the wealthiest 1%, my life as a poor guy is going to be any better. Nor do I think it's very loving, respectful. I talked at the beginning of tonight's video about the issue of respect for human life. I see no respect for human life in saying, well, I hate that guy because he's got $1 billion and I've got about $25 to my name. So I want the government to force him to give them some of his money and give me some benefits from it. That's not the way I look at it. I would feel much better about my life if I just managed to earn more money fairly and honestly. And that's, in my opinion, the only way to fight poverty, is by teaching people that resentment and a desire for government-orchestrated theft, that's never going to solve the problem, and all it's going to do is brew resentment between the classes, the issue of classism. I don't care about how much money a person makes, I care about their character. And politically, the only way to deal with the issue of the fact that we're all going to have different incomes is to say, doesn't matter how much money you make, you're all going to pay sales tax. Doesn't matter how much money you make, there's going to be a flat tax. The important thing is that everybody is treated equally under the law so that legally no group is resented by the government. That's a step in the right direction. That's a step in the right direction. And that's what I stand for. And if you vote for me, and if you vote for Don DeZarn, that's the kind of attitude you're finally going to see refreshing the New Jersey legislature. So I ask that you help us. Now, how can you do it? How can you help us get elected so that we can change things around here? First thing that you do is you could come and show your support at our rally this Sunday to calling for the reform of marijuana laws in our state. How important is this issue? A lot of people have asked, well, isn't the property tax issue really important? Education? Why is marijuana something you're even bothering with at a time when we are suffering from a terrible economy? Here's the answer in a nutshell, and I've said it before, and I just want to say it again because it's very important. In Trenton, the annual record was broken for the number of murders within a year was broken, and we're not even at 11 months within the year. We're 9 months within the year. We're at, I believe, 32 murders in the city of Trenton. That's a city within Mercer County. Now, Mercer County has been busy spending over a month investigating a pothead in East Windsor, a very safe town, who's nonviolent and hasn't made a lot of money, isn't a big name pot dealer. So let's talk here about priorities. Should the county's law enforcement be worried about a nonviolent, not profoundly wealthy pot dealer in a safe city, or record-breaking violence in a very dangerous city? In my opinion, it's a waste of money, time, and police to be bothering with people who are smoking marijuana or growing marijuana or consuming marijuana, especially when it's something that has been proven to be a medicine and is more healthy for you than alcohol, which already is legal. To me, that's unfair. And so it's a safety issue at the end of the day. For me, it's also a fairness issue. So you can show up at that rally and help us fix that. The next thing that you can do is take some of these bumper stickers and put them wherever you can. If you don't have one of these, Facebook me, YouTube me, email me, call me, just ask me in person, whatever you've got to do. I will make sure you have as many of these as you want. Next, you got to make sure you're registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote, no problem. We've got plenty of registration forms for you and your friends, and your family members, and your neighbors, and your coworkers. Next, you've got to make sure you've got one of these. This is a palm card. This explains, in a nutshell, everything Don DeZarn and I want to do. For example, we want to lower property taxes. We want to repeal red light camera laws. We want more transparency. We want to legalize marijuana, as I said. We want to nullify Obamacare, as I also said. We want to legalize same-sex marriage. We want to simplify the gun laws, and we want more options from education. Make sure you've got one of these. Make sure you've got several of these so you can give these to everybody you know and hang them and put them on the walls wherever you can. And make sure people know that they're better than these plans, the Democrat plan or the Republican plan. They're more specific, and they deal with the actual problems. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to listen to everything that I've got to say tonight. I just want to remind you one thing. On September 14th, 2013 at Scoopers, it's a wonderful ice cream parlor in East Windsor, we're going to be having a fundraiser. Please be there. Help us win this election. Thank you. May God bless the state of New Jersey, and may God bless America.